Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Moonhawk Studios Presents. I am your host, Mac Paladin, and this is the season finale. It is April 24th, and the season 17 comes at last to a close. I really, as much as I would have thought that we should have been a little further along, I'm also surprised that we've been able to endure as long as we have.
Insert
So, with that in mind,
non-canon episode.
Yeah. With that in mind, and speaking of enduring, with me in the studio as always is my good friend Adam.
I mean, it's been a rough season.
Yeah.
A lot of people's life happened.
Mm-hmm. Kevin's in the hizzy.
Somehow the only relatively stable person on the stream, it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Don't jinx it.
Right.
Well, I mean, I can't really jinx it because, I've had my life happen already, so.
And then you come back from the break surviving a plane crash.
That ain't happening. I ain't going on a plane, so that helps.
The plane
you technically don't have to be on a plane to survive a plane crash.
That is very true.
I just said that.
True.
It's like the plane could crash into you.
That ain't happening. It's not where I
live.
We have fun.
It's like that movie with Michael Caine, Black Ice. And the whole reason that the movie was called that was because at one point in the movie he explains that a friend of his he's at a funeral and he explains that the guy was killed by basically the dirty shit water falling out of the plane. It's called Black Ice.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just minding his own business. Anyway, Petty Fan is here.
Yay.
And we have the Golics.
That's what the rumor is.
All right. Purportedly, we have a great show for you tonight, but as always, we will get through the news. Adam, what is cooking?
Nothing that I can speak to in depth with since it's all fallout relating to the accident. Like, just a lot of dealing with shit. Right now, the vehicle is actually being assessed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anyone is expecting anything else other than totality. So, but things are moving at a rapid clip in some areas. Other areas may take literal years.
Fine.
Well, mainly the medical stuff, though I don't think there's that much, honestly. Like I said, I can't really get into it.
Indeed.
Like, that's really my news for the week.
All right.
Like I said, not necessarily, stuff's been happening, just nothing I wish to discuss on air.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Anyway,
all
Kevin,
right.
You're up.
Normal stuff at the AMC as always. It's going to be a pretty dead couple of weeks, actually, because here until, Memorial Day weekend, there's probably not going to be much of anything going on, so it's going to be a pretty dead couple of weeks. As I noted about a month or so ago, probably a couple months ago, I will be hanging out at MomoCon coming up on May the 24th to the 27th. And that'll probably mean that I will not be here for the season premiere next month. So, but yeah, it's going to be hopefully it'll be another fun weekend. I'm very much looking forward to it. I had a lot of fun last year, so hope this year will be just as good. And can't wait to get down there next month. So, other than that, that's all that I got. Petty, what's your news?
This has probably been the tamest week I've had in the last few months.
You hear me knocking on my desk, right?
Yes. Yeah, mainly the big things is I replaced the thermostat or the thermal. I think it's a thermistor in the air conditioner up here to hopefully repair that because the thermistor was $30. A new air conditioner big enough to because we have an open concept upstairs. A new air conditioner big enough for that's $600. So when in doubt, repair your shit. And then I had to do some outlet repair because we had a little bit of a sparking incident.
Oh boy.
So that was fun. Yeah, I looked at the outlet and yeah, just internal stuff blew up in it because it was like 70 years old. So yeah, that was a fun first time dealing with that. Because I've never dealt with electrical. I don't mess around with high voltage. I'm not that stupid.
The last time that outlet was grounded.
Anyway. Funny you say that. It's not.
As an electrical engineer, I advise you do not mess with electricity unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, luckily just the outlet swap was simple enough.
Teddy lives in BFE.
Bumfuck
so
Missouri.
he kind of has to do. So he has to kind of do everything himself.
Well, if my dad wasn't between jobs, we probably could have hired a handyman to do it. But when you don't have $200-$300 to hire an electrician to replace an outlet, you kind of got to do it yourself. Especially you can get the outlet for $5.
Oof! Don't ever call a certified electrician a handyman again.
Fair. I realized that as it came out of my mouth. I just committed was basically a war crime, and for that I apologize.
Them's fighting words.
It very much is.
As the son of a union man, I'm here to inform you.
Yeah. But yeah. Other than that, it's been also a little too quiet because we've been by the card shop a few times and the lights have been off. Closed sign is up. So I'm thinking they're done, which is, unfortunate.
Sad.
It's time to let go.
Yeah.
Lay sad.
It's definitely one of those things that sucked because if they weren't scammed, they wouldn't be gone. But people are assholes, and I hope no joy comes to those people.
They probably got away scot-free.
Oh, yeah, because the way the chargeback system works, it definitely benefits the chargebacker, or the person making the chargeback, and there is next to no repercussions for that.
Fun.
But yeah, this weekend we're actually going to Micro Center, so yay, more hobby stuff. Because at least one electronics store isn't basically dying in front of us, looking at you, Best Buy. But yeah, I guess that's it from me.
Yeah, it was funny that you mentioned Best Buy because I was in there today and it was a ghost town.
Well, it's like 2 of the Best Buys that were relatively close to me have closed down because they had way too many stores.
And they've decided to stop selling one of the major things that I went there for.
Physical media.
Yeah. Well, they also used to sell electronic stuff, other than just cables and computers. And then they decided to pull a Kmart and go towards appliances, but that's a rant for another time. Don't get me started.
Well, when I worked there 23 years ago, appliances was their number one seller, and it still is to this day, which is why you would think that someone would actually stock that little, actually staff that little fancy schmancy kiosk that they have in my local Best Buy store. But nope. There was a couple of people jibber-jabbering over by the clearance shelf, and that was it.
Fun.
And I was like, hey, you guys got something to do? Here, let me give you something to do. Let me ask you a bunch of questions about where stuff is.
Yeah.
I'm not buying today, But
But yeah, I guess that's it for me. So Gullix.
Pretty low key week for me. We're finally doing my birthday dinner tomorrow because we got an actual reservation at the place that had way too long of a wait on the actual day. The weather has been going back and forth, but has been, fine, which is better than where we were for a while.
You're not in the darkness.
Yes. Also, I will say, I have been relatively stable. I think there was just a little bit of an issue with, the winter storms outside of the bounds of winter. I am trying to look into getting a new laptop sometime fairly soon, hopefully. Because my current one is getting old, and I realized upon thinking about it that that's one of the reasons why I don't want to travel much, is because I don't want to have the only computer I have access to be my current laptop. So I want to get a better one. And then for video games, I've been mostly playing Splatoon 3 recently still. My team actually won the Splatfest, which was nice. I was on team Baby Bears Are the Best Fuzzy Cute Thing out of bear cubs, bunnies, and chicks.
Fun.
I thought I'd been thinking I don't have a very good win record on Splatfests in this game, at least. But then I went back and looked at it, and it's actually around 1/3, which is about what you'd expect now that there are three teams instead of two.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's probably all I got.
All right. Well, as I was telling everybody in the pre-show, my boy Tippy is no longer in possession of his jingle bells.
Oh, they actually removed them. They weren't just like clipped.
Well, I mean, he got clipped. I mean, they're physically there, but they're about to dissolve, whatever it is that happens to pets when you neuter them.
Yeah.
Now, what was it that made you decide to do that all of a sudden?
The fact that I am rebuilding that other room and Tippy keeps pissing all over everything and howling at the moon every time I get onto the podcast or onto the stream or whatever, it was getting to be a bit excessive. And I can't, it's like he started doing it in the middle of the night the other day. I'm trying to go to sleep and he's just in the window and I'm like, okay.
We're done here.
I've been wanting to do it for years. I've never had the extra fundage. Things are starting to settle down. I've changed my entire strategy around working. I'm not taking nearly as much time off. Largely because I have a metric ton of stuff I need to acquire in my Temu shopping cart for the channel. This year is going to be last year was a major outlay of cash for things for the streams, and this year is going to be no different. I have already made substantial acquisitions ever since the complete fucking disaster that was the master bedroom for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
Since February, I've had a basically unusable room, and they were simultaneously repairing my shower, which the fiberglass in the floor had collapsed. I had been after them for years to rebuild this shower, and we'll totally get to it. And then, pandemic hit, and they didn't do jack shit. Like the entire bottom 3 rows of tiles were constantly in disrepair because I'm next to a dilapidated apartment where the drywall was not intact.
Fun.
And then it looked like they had repaired it once before. And then the fun thing was, so they put in this new thing, and they took out the glass doors that I had and said, well, you got to use a shower curtain rod now, which they did not provide. I had to provide my own. And so yeah, and then the water main blew up again, and this time they had to dig a trench and take out the toilet. So the toilet was sitting in the middle of the bedroom for like a month. So our maintenance guy finally came by and finished all that, and I've been slowly but surely rebuilding the room. But I'm also doing this massive landscaping project in my backyard because they finally, after 5 fucking years, rebuilt the back fence. And they did a horrible job of it.
Yeah, it sounds on base.
Mm-hmm. There's like 24 screws sticking through, and I'm like, oh my god, if I had children, I would have to be so lawsuit all over this place.
Oh yeah.
So now I get to, and they didn't do a complete fence. Like there's a little half piece up on the garden that's supposed to be there, and they didn't even. I told them about it. I'm like, guys, you're gonna have to get your circular saw or something out there and make a little stubby fence for the upper. Oh no, guy. And the other maintenance guy, Oscar. So Hector's the lead maintenance guy, and Oscar is he's the guy who like fixes up the apartments for move in, and he kept talking over me, and I said, Oscar, zip it. You keep talking over me, and I'm trying to tell you something. I'm like, there's a little half fence, and I said, look at the fence on the other side. There's a little half fence that goes across the garden. You need to put one of those in. So there's like a patchwork of 2x4s held in by a bunch of screws that missed the mark and are sticking through the boards. So I'm going to have to jump through the little hole that they didn't finish, unscrew it all, and put it back together because Lord knows, it seems like in the last 20 years I have gained the knowledge of a general contractor. Just by dealing with the incompetence of the maintenance personnel at every apartment complex I've ever lived in. And I'm not saying they're not nice dudes, but it's like they just don't. They're just apparently not paid enough to actually do the job right.
Mm-hmm.
They're not certified in anything. They're over here doing electrical work and, rebuilding showers and doing general contractor work, and they are not general contractors. They are actual handymen who were hired to work for $15 to $20 an hour to, do all of the maintenance. They spent 16 hours digging up a water main. First they had to locate where the leak was. Then they spent like 16, 18 hours digging up this water main to repair like a 3-foot section of pipe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking to myself, if they'd just hired an actual plumber or general contractor or somebody who, actually has knowledge of these kinds of things as a specialty, it would have been done in 1/4 of the time, been done right, and probably at half the price.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, now that all this stuff is generally fixed, and I have personally inspected everything because I don't trust anybody, to make sure that it's not going to fall apart. Like, I actually dug up the entire water main outside. They had one of those conduit covers, the valve covers, the little composite plastic thing. It's black and green, has a little door on it, that you can lift up with a tool. And it was collapsed into the ground. So I dug the entire thing up, lined the underside with rocks, and then put it back in. And then I built a miter box around it to keep the dirt from falling back into it, because I'm going to plant a new lawn back there. And so it's just been one thing after another. It's like I'm out there ever since COVID. I've had like lightheadedness problems when I'm working on my hands and knees too much. And when I try to get back up, or if it's just slightly too warm or whatever, I get extremely lightheaded when I get back up, and then it's just like leaning against the wall for 15 to 60 seconds, and so I don't really like crawling around fixing shit underneath other shit, and that's all I've been doing for the last 2 months is like trying to get everything. Planting marigolds, getting that little white flower ground cover. I'm gonna put geraniums in there. I had a marble table that the bottom rotted out of, and so I flipped that over and permanently attached the gazebo umbrella that my ex-roommates left behind. She was in such a hurry to get that umbrella. $400 her stimulus check. She got this umbrella and then never once used it in 4 years. Well, I am going to use it, so there it is. I had to fix it up because the screws were coming apart, and so I'm just doing all kinds of general maintenance and contractor work myself. But yeah, I built a platform. But when I flip the table upside down, it's actually now like a little planter box, and I'm going to fill it with gravel. I'm going to fill it with decorative gravel and then put a couple of potted geraniums on it, and it's going to look fucking beautiful. And I'm going to build a trim around the outer edge of it. So the marble that's still attached to the rotted wood is weighing the whole thing down, because I was using a couple of spent air conditioner motors to as ballast to keep this thing from toppling over, because it gets very windy in the desert.
Mm-hmm, I'd imagine.
Yeah. So it's a big project. My dad gave me his electrical outdoor lighting. He had all of these little electrical lanterns, and he replaced all of his lighting with solar. So he gave me his entire setup, like the pathway accent lights. He had these little cone-shaped accent lights, and then he had 3 of these hanging lanterns, and they look really nice. And I staked them in the garden, and I just need to wire up the transformer. And then what I need to do is I need to go get a gas-powered generator from Walmart. And then this project is largely complete. But I am going to put some of these wood post trim around that tabletop to cover up the fact that the wooden frame is kind of rotted away. The tabletop itself is like some kind of pressure treated lumber that's really heavy duty, and then it had like this trim around the outside that just rotted away. And then all the broken pieces of marble I have thrown into the garden with all the broken pieces of brick that I dug up. So I mean, this is a massive undertaking. This is like a real adult landscaping project. This is not my usual stuff. But I think I've also figured out how to set up the arcade corner of the studio room, and it's going to be great. And Arcade Anarchy, I think, is going to be my best feature on my channel. So I'm going to preemptively tell everybody to go over and follow Mac Paladin on this very platform. And that is a thing I will be doing. Although I will be returning to VTubing on the Mace Paladino. So Thursday and Friday we're gonna do Hoyoverse, and that is going to consist of Thursday night is going to be Honkai Star Rail, and Friday nights is going to be probably Honkai Impact the Third. Now that Book 2 is out.
Fine.
Yep. So that's most of the big stuff. Other than that, for Arcade Anarchy, I picked up a cathode ray tube, HP 17-inch monitor, and for $5 at Speedway Outlet. In really good condition too. So for a 22-year-old monitor, it's in pretty damn good shape. I used to sell these monitors at Best Buy to give you an idea how long it's been since these monitors were in manufacture. And I left Best Buy in January of 2005. Phew. All right, so without any further ado, let's get this show started in earnest here. Let's see. Hold on a second. I was on there. Somebody started messing with the page, and now I'm not with all the information. Tonight's show, we have Daniel Simon of Charge Software on the program tonight, and apparently this is a double feature with Fragments of Silicon, so to speak.
Something like that.
Okay.
It's more.
Daniel, welcome. Oh, go ahead.
It's more. This is an. Never mind.
Overflow.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Daniel, welcome to the podcast. Sorry for that little bit of a glitch there.
It's okay. You can call me Dan.
All right. All right. So, Dan, tell us about Charge Software and what you're doing.
So, Charge Software is my own little one-man shop. It's my attempt at not having to work for a normal office job anymore. So yeah, I decided to try making a game and see how it goes.
All right.
So this is my first game.
Nice. Now, this is now it is tradition on this show that Adam runs the details of the interview, but it's kind of more important today because he originally wanted you as a guest for Fragments of Silicon, and there was some thing going on there. So I'm going to have him just do what he does best. So Adam, take it away.
Yeah. Well, it's more we needed a extra interview for the season, and this just happened to be handy.
All right, then. However it works out.
Yeah. Anyway, so I guess I'll start with my traditional Fragments questioning, given the circumstances, and that is, what got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
At a personal level, I've been playing video games since I was a little kid. I guess getting my first Atari probably was what got me into it, and then the NES, Nintendo. I've always loved how video games allow you to be someone you can't be in real life, right? You can be whatever, a world leader or a general or a space captain or whatever, right? So that's what got me into video games on a personal level. On a professional level, I kind of wanted to start a business and sort of become financially independent. And my field of expertise is hardware engineering, electrical engineering, and starting a business on that requires a lot of money to start with, right? Because you have to invest a lot in lab equipment and stuff like that. But creating a game is not as capital intensive, at least a small indie game like this one, right? I wasn't aiming to create a studio game. So yeah, with software is my secondary skill, so it was kind of a big learning curve for me at the beginning. And I think the other thing that motivated me to do it is my discovery of Unity game engine. It makes everything way easier. I don't think I could have done it without it because I'm not a software engineer. Unity lets people with less software skills be able to make a program. So,
certainly a story we have heard from others who are breaking in. Unity, not the only game engine that gets mentioned, but definitely the most.
It typically gets compared against Unreal Engine, which is a lot harder to program for.
On the other hand, a lot of a fair amount of people get in from, say, RPG Maker or Game Maker is another popular one.
Hmm.
Yeah. Anyway,
Also with the
So-
licensing.
yeah. So, how long ago did you start development on Cosmic Armada here?
It's over 2 years ago, roughly. Yeah. Full time.
I'm like, it's a fair amount of time. Like, I'd say that's a fairly typical development cycle for a solo dev project. 2 to 3 years is based on what the people who come through our doors. Like, and for the uninitiated, what is Cosmic Armada?
Cosmic Armada is a space exploration game where you it has 3 different game modes. A campaign mode where you can play a storyline game, a custom game mode where you can basically set up a custom galaxy and play a game on it. And both of those modes use a procedurally generated galaxy. So each new game will be different. And there's a scenario mode that allows you to play a galaxy that you can create in the map editor or download from the workshop. So the campaign follows is a story. It starts with you fleeing from your home planet of Proteus, which was just conquered by the Solar Empire, which is an empire based on Earth. And you and 50 other refugees flee on a ship and end up finding an abandoned space station. And that's where you start the game, with your ship and with one station. And you basically have to build up slowly over time your fleet, do missions, follow the storyline, or earn money by mining or manufacturing or trading. It's kind of up to you how you earn money to build up your fleet.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the objective of the game is of the campaign at least is to finish all the missions in the mission tree.
And what made you want to create a space exploration game of all things?
I was inspired by an old game from the 90s called Escape Velocity. I don't know if you guys know it.
I want to say that sounds familiar, but I can't place it
Escape
exactly.
Velocity, yes. I do know of it, but I don't actually remember the game itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically this style of game. And I really loved it, and I've always wanted a more modern version of the game for someone to create it, right? And there were several attempts to create similar types of games, but they never finished the game, or like it never really got released, or it was incomplete. So, and none of them were quite like Escape Velocity in the game mechanics. So I wanted to create a game like that, but with more stuff. You can do more stuff than you could do in Escape Velocity with a different story and everything.
What could you do in Escape Velocity?
In Escape Velocity, you start out with a crappy little shuttle, and it's similar to this game in that you have to basically start earning money somehow by doing missions or killing other ships and stealing their stuff, or and at the same time trying to follow the story missions and complete the campaign. And over time, you can get a better ship or better weapons and more ships in your fleet. And it's on an open galaxy.
Let's see. And it sounds fairly open. ended as well.
In Escape Velocity, there was only one story. Well, in the first game, I think there was only one storyline. You just complete it and finish it. I think the Escape Velocity Nova has like 6 different storylines that you can pick. But it's all in the same galaxy, same map, so replayability is not that great. In this one, you get a random galaxy each new playthrough, so it's more replayable.
And I'm guessing that's where the procedural generation comes into play.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Right. And I suppose my next question involves the physics of the game. I'm presuming this uses a realistic model of movement.
Yes, it does. I have a minor in physics, so I know how to use all those equations. So I put them in the code to make it look realistic. So the mass of the ship, for example, will affect how much you can accelerate, right? So
Right.
Different ship sizes have different masses, and you can put different types of thrusters on them to make them faster or accelerate faster. It also affects the turning speed, so you can get a rotational thruster that's better in order to turn faster if you want.
Right. And I'm presuming like you have to use the thruster to brake. Like, it's not a stop on a dime scenario.
No. When you hit the brakes, which is B, I believe. No, sorry, space. It uses the thrusters to decelerate at the deceleration rate based on the thrusters and the mass.
Yeah. I do feel this is important to delineate because, sometimes when people see a space game like this, they think it'll play very arcadey, like simple movements, stop on a dime kind of deal. And I find with a lot of the serious space exploration games, they tend to, actually use things like Newtonian physics.
Yeah, that's what this game uses.
Yeah. And
although I don't use the gravity of the stars and planets. Right. Movement.
Right. I'm not expecting an exact model here, but it's something more prevalent than, say, a spaceship shooter to even like asteroids or lunar lander.
Right.
Honestly, it kind of reminds me of a game I'm playing through right now called Delta V: Rings of Saturn.
Oh.
Yeah.
I once played a game that actually used the gravity of the stars and the planets in its movement, and I found it to be extremely difficult to control as a player.
That makes sense because, that's kind of gravity for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what gravity does. It pulls you towards it. Anyway,
yeah, and it's a completely new way of thinking about motion. Something that I guess you have to play Kerbal Space Program to understand the orbital mechanics.
Yep. I've heard things about Kerbal. Like, the actual NASA scientists are impressed with the work that Kerbal does.
Yeah, it's really cool what they do. It's a complicated game, but it really teaches you how it works.
Yeah. Anyway, so how does mining work out in this game?
So you find an asteroid, and one of the guns that you have on your ship is a mining laser. Do you see on top of the mini-map there are 6 buttons on the top side? The button on the left is your weapon bindings, and that's where you can see what your ship has.
Hmm.
So that'll you have one mining laser, 5 minigun turrets, and 2 guided missiles. So if you, I think middle click, it says tertiary fire for mining laser, right?
Yes.
So you can configure these, right? So primary, secondary, tertiary are left click, right click, and middle click. And you can configure those in the options, so you can make them whatever you want. So right now, all you have to do is find an asteroid and use middle click to fire your mining laser at an asteroid.
Yeah. Let me get. I was doing a little bit of that, but yeah, like these little asteroid belts over here.
Yeah. So if you hover your mouse over an asteroid, it'll tell you what it's made of.
Mm-hmm. Like we got iron, we got stone, we got copper. I think I saw ice earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so whatever you mine, you can either sell it or you can put it in a smelter and smelt it and then sell that. Or you can make more complicated parts.
Mm.
So there's a crafting system in this game.
There is a crafting system. So your space station has a smelter and a factory, and you can build more of them. You can also upgrade them to make it faster.
Mm-hmm.
Does that up to including other ships?
What do you mean? No, only the stations and planets have the ability to craft. You have to land somewhere that has a smelter or a factory. It has to be one of your own planets or stations.
Now, who are these?
Press L to land.
Yeah.
And
if there's a little bit
land.
of a delay, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns on an autopilot for landing. So, see, there's a smelter and a factory that can. You have to transfer your cargo to the station. If you want to melt it, or we can just find a place to sell it.
Right.
Now, I also see that there's a macroeconomic component to this game, for lack of a better term, in the sense that you can colonize planets, expand your domain, and increase your tax revenue. So how does that all work out?
So you can colonize other planets. To colonize a planet, it's pretty expensive. You need like 100,000 PC plus a bunch of materials to build the colony. All in your fleet. So it's more of a mid-game thing, right? At the beginning, the way to increase your revenue is to get more population in your existing planet. And you can do that by building new buildings. So you'll have to build more housing and more farms to be able to get more people. And the rest is just for passing the time if you just want something to be crafted or built, and you don't want to do anything.
So a bit of a sim aspect there.
Yeah. So yeah, the more people you have and the more colonies you have, the more revenue you have, and that is used to pay for your fleet. So your fleet costs you money because you have to pay your crew. Well, that'll cost you a daily.
Now, how does operating a fleet work?
It's all done through the fleet panel, which is on the. See that little button with three ships on it on top of the minimap?
Give me 1 second.
Oh, you ran out of oxygen. So, land and make sure you refill your fleet.
Yeah.
Now,
On the left, you'll see refilled fleet, and so this is the fleet screen. Right now, you just have one ship, and as you add more ships, they'll appear here, and you can switch to any ship. You can pilot it.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned story campaign missions previously. What is the narrative of Cosmic Armada here?
The narrative is you are a group of refugees who just escaped your home planet that just got conquered by the Solar Empire. And you find this abandoned station, and you meet someone named Samuel Rice, who's the commander of the evacuation of your planet. He's the one who found the station, and basically you just start getting missions from him, and the goal is to eventually take back your homeworld, Proteus. So all these story missions lead towards that goal, but conquering Proteus is not the final mission. There's more to the campaign after that, but I don't want to spoil it.
Like, now there are multiple win states?
In the campaign, there's only one win state. You have to finish the campaign missions.
Okay.
Yeah. In the custom game, you have to defeat your arch enemies, which are other factions that you need to conquer. And in a scenario that you can create in the map editor, you can create your own mission tree that you have to complete.
I see. And who are the other factions of the game outside of the Solar Empire?
If you click on the little crown on top of the minimap, you can see all the other factions. Those are all the other factions. So the first one you're going to meet is the underground market. It's just an illegal market that you can shop at. And eventually you'll start running into some of the... There's a few criminal factions like pirates and bandits and stuff, and there's a good aliens, there's a bad aliens, there's another faction that I don't want to spoil it. You'll find out when you get there in the campaign.
Fair enough. Like, now, shifting over to custom mode, how robust are the tools there?
So, you mean for the map editor, like to create your scenario?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's a full map editor that allows you to create your own galaxy system by system. So you can go in and click on a square and decide how many stars, what types of stars, how many planets, what types of planets, and you can configure the details for each planet or space station that you want. And you can draw the hyperspace lanes the way you want. It lets you customize pretty much everything about the galaxy, and you can also add different ships, different weapons, modules, thrusters, and you can create a whole mission tree or several mission trees.
That is very in depth.
Yeah, it's pretty flexible. It allows modders to do a lot.
I was about to ask, along those lines, does this have Steam Workshop support?
It does. It is supported by the workshop, yep. So you can subscribe to mods on the workshop and upload them through the game.
Have you tried out?
What?
Have you tried out any of the mods yet?
I haven't seen any mods yet. Let me check if anybody uploaded any.
Hmm. Hopefully. Live research.
Mm-hmm.
Just got to make sure the dead air didn't get too dead.
Indeed.
Hopefully, there are some mods on the on the storefront.
Two of the mods are mine that I uploaded as a sample.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I'm logging into my other Steam account. Yeah, no, there's only the two sample mods that I made. So yeah, nobody uploaded any yet.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose that does get to a perhaps tricky question to answer. The game came out, from what I'm seeing, very late last year.
Yeah.
So it's been out for a few months. How has it been doing?
Not great actually. Sales are actually pretty difficult. Now it may be because I'm not an expert in marketing, and I'm not. I'm not very good at marketing. I'm an engineer, so
That's certainly a whole different skill set.
And now the game, I don't know. What do you guys think about it? Do you like it so far? I don't know if it's the quality of the game that's the problem, or.
Well, I mean, Petty will have to speak for that since he's been the one who's actually playing the game.
I think it looks kind of interesting, though I'm having trouble like getting started. I think is my issue.
I'm not surprised. It's a problem I'm having with that Delta V game. Like,
so my suggestion is to just follow the tutorial missions. They will guide you.
Yeah, it's like it's saying find underground market, but like there's no real indications on where that is.
Oh, so you can. Do you know where the accepted mission list is? It's on top of on the minimap buttons, the top right button.
Right there. View.
The top right. That's the accepted
there's
missions.
like a 4-second delay. Apologies on that.
And if you click on View Destination and Map, it'll open up the map and show you where to go. On the
it's all
top
the way
left
out there.
Go into the mission. Yeah, on the top left. Yeah. So if you double click on the system that's in the yellow brackets, it'll put a hyperspace path.
Oh, it's one of those ones where you like need to use hyperspace stuff like that to jump around.
Yeah. So when you double click on a system, and it'll make a path for you, and then you have to jump. So it's 2 jumps away. So on the top right, you see it says how many jumps you have left, and you have to move away from the star.
Yeah.
Until the hyperspace indicator on the bottom turns green. Press 8. And then you can press H again to get to the next system.
And then I think I'm there.
And then if you press Y, it'll select the nearest inhabited system. And it's tab 7, right?
Alrighty. All right.
So you're in the right system. Now we need to find the actual market. So Y and then L to land, and it'll
Yeah.
automatically go. Yep.
Alrighty, thank you.
And once
I
you
mean-
land, it'll give you further instructions.
As far as why the game isn't doing too hot, there's all sorts of reasons why that could be. Ranging from the market itself, as in there are a lot of games out there at any given time. I mean,
Yeah.
believe me, like this is a topic that comes up time and again with us.
Yeah. For our other show, Fragments of Silicon, we do live reviews, and we went from like doing maybe 1 or 2 games a week a couple of years ago to each of us getting at least 1 game a week to review.
Yeah.
I'm like, and to the type of game, the learning curve, because a game like this is going to require patience, and stuff like that.
It's not an easy game. It has some depth, so it has a bit of a learning curve.
Like I said, maybe a combination of factors, or indeed, marketing just not being there. It's like pick your poison. As long as as long as you didn't break the bank or anything like that.
No, I took a calculated risk. Yeah, plan B is to go back and get a job at an office.
I'm like, once again, that's a thing that's come up on our program. I think just like last week.
Yep.
Like I said, it is a tough environment out there right now in the world of video gaming. Like, just on a macro level, not just competition, but capital is very scarce right now. On tonight's Fragments episode, we were talking with a fairly prominent developer, and they were telling us about their woes in that field. So,
even it's also happening to experienced developers.
Yep. So times are rough right now. A lot of that's related to interest rates. But I suppose, putting that aside, do you have any further plans to develop Cosmic Armada?
It really depends on how much it ends up making, right? I do have many more ideas to add to it, but it all depends on whether it ends up getting enough sales. Otherwise, I'll have to go back and get a job full time, and then it'll. But it is a complete game already, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any plans to bring this to consoles?
Not at the moment. This game was mostly designed for PC. There's a chance I could bring it to Mac and Linux, but console probably not.
Duly noted. And finally, I'm not. I think I already know the answer, but I do have to ask this anyway. Do you have any plans for your next title?
I do have. I would like to design another game, yes, but I don't want to reveal my idea yet. But again, it also depends on how this game does, right? So, the plan was to have the revenue from this game support me while I create the next game. So yeah,
Well,
so
hopefully-
it may not happen. It may not happen if this game doesn't make enough.
Like, well, I mean, hopefully you will be able to do that. Like, you know, it is unfortunate that we have to end on kind of a dour note, but I've
Yeah.
run through my gamut of questions. I mean, does anyone have anything further?
I'm good.
I believe I also have no further questions. It does look
All right.
interesting, though.
Indeed.
Mhm.
Good. I'm glad. Any questions about the game?
Not real. So after that,
About how anything works or anything? No.
after that opening part, it seems to be rolling through smoothly. So yeah,
Okay.
it was just that kind of like, I guess I missed a tutorial or something on where to, look for that other, where the underground market was.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's all spelled out in the tutorial, and there's also a help, more extensive
Yeah.
help
I might have just
section. If you
glanced over it and just didn't process it, type deal.
Yeah, yeah. In the game menu, there's also additional help for more detailed help,
Hmm.
and there's also the little question mark button that takes you to help for that particular window.
At,
All right.
at any rate, the game is Cosmic Armada. It is currently on Steam for $9.99. I suppose this is a good time as any to shift to the entertainment news.
Yep.
All right,
Indeed.
thanks guys for the interview.
Mm-hmm.
No problem. No problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you for coming and speak with us.
Yeah,
Mhm.
my pleasure.
Right. So, entertainment news this week. Well, I think I know where we need to start. And that is
Hmm.
TikTok. Like,
Oh, boy.
Indeed.
because, well, it happened.
Hmm.
The TikTok divestment bill or whatever has been signed into law.
Oh,
Hmm.
I missed that. I heard it passed. I
It
would
was.
think the House
Yeah.
or the Senate.
No, it was
No,
attached.
so
It was
this is-
attached to. It was attached to must pass. And I'm making air quotes with my fingers. Must pass legislation regarding support to Ukraine and Taiwan and Israel and all that
Wonderful.
stuff. So,
The big foreign aid thing they recently got through.
Yeah.
Yes.
We call this a rider.
Yes.
Yep.
Makes sense.
So, Kevin,
I hate it
why
happened,
don't you?
but it makes sense.
Anyway,
Yeah,
Kevin, why
I'm-
don't you hit us with the details?
Yeah, hold on a second. I'm trying to get a thing up here
Yeah, because
because
putting
there's
it as a
actually a
rider was
specific
something
name
that
for
was
it.
recent. Because
Yeah, the thing.
It's specifically the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act.
Mhm.
In this bill here. One moment here. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, it was part of this major foreign aid package that includes money for Ukraine, money for Taiwan, money for Israel, and also a lot of things that are connected to national security and also involved with it. Was basically a tweaked up version of what was passed the House a couple months ago. We talked about here. Basically, what they changed was the fact that they extended the length of time for the divestment. I forgot what it was originally, but it's now 270 days.
yeah,
With
It
an
was
additional
originally.
90
It was
days.
originally 180.
Right, it was originally 180. It's now 270, and also includes a potential 90-day extension. That someone's probably going to be invoked regardless here. So
to put it
Yeah, but
real
that was
simply
that
for
there.
people who haven't been following this, The U.S. government is trying to get TikTok to not be owned by basically a Chinese-controlled company. They're demanding the sale to. Is it required to be a U.S. company or just
No,
a
No,
non-Chinese
just
company?
just to a non-adversary.
Just to a
Right,
non-Chinese entity. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter
because the last I
Chinese
looked
or
into it, people
non.
were trying
Well,
to say
they
it was
can't sell it
U.S.
to the
owned.
Russians. They can't sell
Right,
it to the
it's-
Russians
yeah, all right,
because
I was going to
the Russians
say,
are hostile.
I was going to say, basically, any sell to an entity that's not connected to a foreign adversary, meaning China, Russia, Iran, North Korea,
Yeah.
that whole thing.
So a little background history on TikTok itself. It was originally developed by ByteDance in China as their app called Douyin or something like that.
Something
it's
like that.
Douyin, yeah.
Douyin, and then it became TikTok and was moved to Singapore. So a group in Singapore was basically working on developing this platform, and they basically bought the package lock, stock, and barrel from the rights to use the package from ByteDance, but by giving them sort of controlling ownership of TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
So even though the company's based out of Singapore and has Singaporean board of directors and CEO and all that stuff, with U.S. divisions, it's still there is still the pall, the specter, the shadow of the Chinese government,
Yeah, specifically ByteDance
looming over it.
Yeah, it has
Now,
heavy ties to CCP.
Here's
Because
the thing.
ByteDance is headquartered in Beijing. So
Right.
Well, here's the thing that emerged recently. Apparently, the Chinese government had been doing some under the table lobbying on behalf of ByteDance / TikTok in order to not get it banned, which seems to have backfired spectacularly.
See, the thing is that the CEO of TikTok, or either TikTok or ByteDance, one of the two, literally testified before Congress that we were trying basically as much as possible to separate ourselves from China. And then here's the Chinese embassy going, well, actually, they're our company, and
Chinese government put foot in mouth and then bit down.
pretty much, and they did not help the matter.
Mm-hmm.
There was stories that came out that basically there's a back door involving everything, so it's not necessarily protected from them.
Yeah.
No, basically TikTok's cause during this whole entire process, from when this type of stuff first started being talked about last summer, till now, they have not helped their cause at all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point here.
And there was a lot of there's a lot of stuff that they were doing, and I'm starting to think that the old expression. Okay, I'm getting real tired of hearing my voice getting repeated through Adam's computer, because it keeps distracting me. All right. So one of the big things that was making me think that the Chinese wall, as the old business expression goes, between the two sides of the business was imperfect, is the fact that TikTok, for their part, was trying to comply with all of the safety regulations and all that stuff that they were, all the national security and data integrity concerns, by investing $2 billion in a safety team and all of the cybersecurity and housing all of the American data on American servers run by Oracle in Texas.
Project Texas.
Huh?
They literally call it Project Texas.
Yep. And then, at the same time, they still have this back door in there now that has now come to light. So I mean, it's just a clusterfuck all the way around.
Right.
The other questions, of course, being, we pass a law like this, at what point do we say China can't own any piece of America or do business in America anymore? Which I don't know how the fuck that's going to work, because don't like 80% of our consumer products come from China?
Something like that, yeah.
Doesn't the Postal Service and the electric companies sell our data to Chinese nationals on a regular basis because of the way the cottage industry works?
The difference here is that we're talking about literally a Chinese incorporated company, while everybody else, because the main companies here aren't in China, but are like American, European. There's the difference there.
Yeah, and the concern is that in order to become a company in China, you basically have to agree that the government can get whatever you have to give the government whatever they want, or they'll just stop letting you be a company.
Right, exactly. So that's the big difference here. It's like, American companies deal with Chinese and companies all the time, but the difference is that we're dealing with American-based and European-based companies versus, ByteDance over here, which is a Chinese-based company.
Yeah, and they
which brings
get
it a little bit more of a level of
they want,
right.
be it American, European, Chinese, Japanese, doesn't matter.
Yeah, they can't say no. Like, they can't fight in court. They can't, do everything else. And, usually we don't have like major orders involving data and everything else. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, with the Chinese government here, when it comes to a Chinese incorporated company, if the Chinese government tells that Chinese incorporated company, hey, we want to see this and that and this and that, and it doesn't have to be public. It doesn't have to be, for public consumption. It could be, on the down low. That's the worry and that's the concern here. And TikTok and ByteDance have done absolutely, positively nothing to tamp down or cool down that worry.
Because, at least in the U.S., if a company needs, or if the government wants data from a U.S. company, it typically needs some type of warrant involved.
Well, no, but you see, but the idea that they've done nothing is not true, because once again, Project Texas and Oracle is managing all the data. Oracle does not take marching orders from the Chinese Communist Party or the Chinese government. So
that's true. However, there's from what I've read, internal systems to where this data is still being shared internally, and Oracle does not have control over that.
I see.
They're just a hard drive off-site, but the Chinese government has the keys.
Right, exactly. And, within this internal systems, these data is being spread around, and that also includes with ByteDance employees in China. There's where the back door lies. It's that there's this internal silo that Oracle does not have control over.
I see. Well, that brings some clarity.
Right.
Here's the thing. ByteDance says they're going to fight it.
Right.
There are some First Amendment concerns that may make this law unconstitutional.
Right. See,
the Constitution may not be the Constitution may not be the Constitution may not be the ally of national security in this particular case.
Now, here's my view on that. I do think that, yes, this is going to be in the court system, and they may get a judge to stay this, which will freeze the clock. Maybe. But the question is going to be, and I don't know but it'll pretty much depend on who's going to be hearing this. The law actually states that the D.C. Court of Appeals, apparently, is going to be the one that's going to hear this based upon the law, because there's actually a bit in the law that specifically notes about potential challenges to this.
Yeah.
So
typically,
everybody knows that that's going to be the case.
DC, yeah.
Right. So, but my view on this is going to be, the question is going to be whether the divestment, specifically the divestment stuff in this law, in this legislation, is enough to make this different from the other two bans that we've had that were struck down by the courts for the First Amendment issue. Because we had a law in Montana and we had an executive order that was done by Trump, who wants to claim that Biden's the big bad and not him.
Yeah, hilarious.
Yeah, but yeah, when it comes to those two bans, they were outright bans. The Montana bill was an outright ban that had no wiggle room around it.
Yeah.
It was literally, you're banned in the state of Montana, point blank and square.
Mhm.
And meanwhile, the executive order over here was still a ban, but it was a little bit more stretched out, only for 45 days. So it's basically, in 45 days, you're going to be banned, point blank and simple. Here, it's, you must divest within 270 days or longer, or at least begin the process.
So it's 270 days, and President Biden has the option, or the president has the option to extend that additional 90 days if there's a deal in the works that
right. That's what I was getting at. That's right. That's what I was getting at. Is that if there's a process in place.
Mhm.
So the question is going to really be: is that enough for the defense to go, this is not an outright ban, unlike with the Montana bill and unlike the executive order, to not be completely kerplunked for the First Amendment issues? Because remember, those other two bans were bans with no wiggle room, no way to get around it. It was basically, you're banned or you're banned in 2 months.
Mhm.
Here it's, you're banned unless you do this, which is a completely different thing. Now the question is, does the legal system see that and don't necessarily obsess over the First Amendment issues like it would be if it was an outright ban, or does it still see it as a First Amendment issue? That's going to be the question, and it's going to depend on who hears it.
I suspect that ByteDance is already making moves to get ready to sell, because their response to this whole thing has been kind of tepid, number one, and number two, they did say something. They did say something along the lines of, "We will exhaust every legal option available to us before divestiture," meaning that they are actually open to the idea of divestiture of the company. They just don't want to lose $140 billion company.
Yeah.
Is what they don't want. What's interesting about this is, didn't India and Korea outright ban TikTok?
Yes, but they also do not have First Amendment laws like we do.
Well, hold on. No, that's not the point. The reason I've mentioned that is
those are also large population bases.
Right. The reason I mentioned that is because of the fact that ByteDance and the Chinese government reps didn't exactly go on the warpath denouncing their, lack of, care for business and human rights, or whatever the fuck it is that they're arguing about at this particular moment. Disingenuously, I might add. They sure didn't make a giant public hoodoo about India, a country with almost 2 billion people in it, outright banning their app. As much as they didn't make as much hay about it as us, which I thought was kind of interesting. So, I mean, like I said, I think at this point, the wheels are in motion for them to divest the company. I don't think TikTok is going away. I think it's just, I think China's just going to try to get as much money out of it as possible, and then make some grand flounce, as they say on the boards on Facebook.
Although
on the way out the door.
Although from what I understand, apparently China's made moves to bar basically the exporting of the technology here. That powers
they did that like a year ago, but at this point, may have.
I mean, we're gonna see. Like, honestly, from what I saw though, from like the CEO, it's basically like it felt as though that they were going to do everything possible but sell. Now we're
Selling
gonna
is
obviously
obviously the last option here.
The way
Right.
that they
So-
phrased it in the press release was that selling it was the last option, but at the same time, I think they're already making moves because this is going to be inevitable. There's not going to be. I don't think they're going to successfully challenge it in the courts, and I don't think our conservative Supreme Court is going to favor it. I think it's going to be a 6-3 decision in favor of banning TikTok if they don't comply. So
I mean, yeah.
so
at
the
this
fact
point,
that they
I
even
think-
mentioned, so the fact that they've said it that way suggests that there is a teeny tiny sliver of thought that this is inevitable and that they're just going to stall it to get as much money as possible. And I think that the banning of the exportation of the technology is one of those things that it's a law until China says it isn't.
Right. I mean, that would be the only. Frankly, that would be the only reason that TikTok dies, because ByteDance doesn't sell, because China is not going to sell them the technology, and nobody wants to build a.
No
wants
one
to do
just
the
wants
things
the
in order to
TikTok
at least.
IP, basically.
Or no. It's more like, they don't want to do things to at least have maybe like a temporary, like maybe mini thing until an American replacement can be built, because I think that could be built. But that would be the only reason. But yeah, I think at this point there's too much money. There's too much
Right. That's what I was
power.
getting
There's
at.
too much. Right. There's too much money. There's too much power. Like literally, if the only reason that TikTok dies is because the Chinese government will basically help kill it. Number one, it's going to basically prove everybody was right about TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anybody at TikTok or ByteDance wants the people who are worried about TikTok to be proven right. And number two, yes, there's too much money, too much power, too much at stake here to let it simply die would be a good thing for the Chinese government, for the Chinese reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
hypothetically, if they were to spin it off so that way it was solely controlled by the Singaporean subsidiary instead of being based out of ByteDance in Beijing, then that would solve a lot of its problems, because Singapore is not hostile to the United States, and
although at the same time it can't be controlled by a company known as ByteDance, and probably might need to rename itself.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Is,
right?
And then suddenly TikTok LLC is born.
Well, or they just sell it to. Or they just sell the algorithm to TikTok, because that's what they need in order for TikTok to function. That's the big difference. So people were comparing TikTok to, when they were saying, well, what's the difference between TikTok and Reels and Shorts and Elon Musk talking about reviving Vine, which would be an interesting alternative. Because X, if you look at X now, it really is the everything platform that Elon envisioned 22 years ago, but did not have the technology or the money to actually build. So now, Mr. Beast is the top streamer on X. He's talking about closing his YouTube channel. Made $1 million in advertising revenue off of a single video on X. So people ask, well, what's the difference in these short form video streaming services? What makes TikTok so special? And that is the curated experience. That is what the algorithm sells. So instead of emphasizing who the way that Reels and Shorts does, it's what you like. And so it gives you a curated experience based on the videos that you like and put your bookmark on and continuously search for and watch. So when you scroll through your timeline and you're looking at all of the recommended videos and stuff like that, it's sending you stuff that is akin to stuff that you have looked at before. If you always look at cat videos, it sends you cat videos. If you always look at political stuff, it sends you political stuff and news. If you're always looking at VTubers or anime or cooking or whatever, it curates your entire experience around that, and then occasionally will throw you a wild card to see if your preferences change. You know, if you linger on that video for a long time, or you put a like on it, or you add it to your favorites, or do whatever, then that somewhat alters your curated experience. So that way, it's always evolving. And that's the big difference. Was that Instagram and Meta in general, and X and YouTube and all that, were giving people a less curated experience because they were just showing you crap related to all of the channels that you favorited or whatever, or whoever you know. It's like, well, whatever they put up, then they give you content like that, and it was or that content specifically in your timeline. So that was the big difference between them. So it took 200 days for them for Douyin to create this algorithm, and so 270 days would be absolutely perfect for somebody else or for TikTok themselves to develop a new version of the algorithm that does roughly the same thing, but has enough difference for it to be their own instead of ByteDance's. That would be another alternative, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
The question is does TikTok itself have the $140 billion necessary to buy themselves out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, well, again, like, to me, it's basically going to come down to if TikTok goes down, it's because the Chinese government is going to make sure that TikTok isn't sold. That's basically what this is going to boil down to. And if that is indeed the case,
then that's cutting off their nose to spite their face,
basically.
Right, and it's going to prove the fears and everything else involving this platform. Everybody's fears about it correct. And I do not think, even in this moment in time when everybody's upset about it, I do not think that's what everybody wants to stand. Now, maybe that's not the case with China. Maybe they want to, kill it just to go, rah, rah, or whatever. Because you don't know what the hell their mindset is.
China's different these days. I mean, they do a lot of saber rattling. Rattling, but they don't seem to. They don't, when the chips are down, they don't seem to spite themselves. They don't spike their own head.
Well, we're going to see. We're going to see when it comes to this, because really, China.
But this is somewhat unprecedented.
Yeah.
Right. But China is going to be the thing that separates TikTok from surviving past 2025. By the way, that's when this thing is going to come down. Or whether it's killed next spring, summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, like next spring, summer, fall. China is going to be the difference between whether TikTok lives or whether TikTok dies, because it's not a situation here where it's, okay, you're banned after this. It's more divest this in whatever way you want to, just get it away from Beijing, and as long as we're satisfied that it's separated from Beijing, we're fine. And something could easily come together well within that 290 days, 270 days, which, by the way, was the biggest reason why the Senate was not really keen on the original House bill, was because that necessarily was probably a little too quick in terms of, having a real thing come together. Now, with this long extended thing, and especially with that punning, you have a bit more time for something to come together.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's going to come down to whether, number one, enough was done in the bill itself to avoid the First Amendment killing, based upon the First Amendment worries and everything. And number two, whether China really wants to be the reason that TikTok is killed. It's just going to come down to that, and we're going to find out now.
Speaking on the court challenges, I think a lot of that is going to come down to the needs of the many. So you have 170 million American users on there, and most of us use TikTok for business in one way, shape, or form or another. So the question is, does shutting down TikTok and basically cutting off the livelihoods of countless tens of millions of Americans, because the actual national security concerns have not been fully articulated. You know how we talk about stop and ID laws and stuff like that whenever we see these watching the cops videos, and and how vaguely those laws are written, so that they have to have a reasonable suspicion that a crime may have been committed or that a crime is about to be committed before they can request ID. And this is kind of where the intelligence community, when they're talking about national security, has been a little vague. They haven't been able to articulate a specific threat to national security as to how this data is being used, or what this data actually is that would be such a national security concern.
Yeah.
I mean, just having our basic information and shopping habits, who gives a fuck?
Of course, the problem is that it's probably because of information or whatever that the intelligence community has gathered that involves very sensitive information that if it were to be public would be a problem.
I mean,
yeah, but the real question is though, what data is TikTok actually gathering that would be of state interest?
I don't think people are posting government secrets on TikTok.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be anything that complex. It just has to be the basics. Name, where you're from, what you're seeing and all that type of stuff. And then that data is then collected and turned into something possibly involving election interference potential.
But they proved beyond a shadow of a doubt, Kevin, this is where I call bullshit on all of that, because they proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the greatest threat to national security from any of the social media services came from Meta in the last election. And they don't have direct access from the Chinese Communist Party. The Russians got into Meta.
What are we talking about here?
2016 and 2020.
The Cambridge Analytica.
Okay, but we've also had information that suggested that they were pretty much involved in a PSYOP project in 2022. Now, of course, it didn't work, but the problem is that in 2022, we're in April. We're early on in this process, and
but the point is that TikTok actually has the information of their algorithm out in the public and has been under scrutiny for years now, whereas Meta and X do not have their entire algorithm concealed as a proprietary trade secret, and they both have been used knowingly by hostile foreign actors to fuck with our information stream. Whereas the Chinese government is just sitting there collecting information. These people have actively been used as patsies in actual PSYOP. And what election interference did they do on TikTok besides reveal that Donald Trump was a fucking moron?
Which anybody could have found that out with just watching anything.
Well, they could easily push into the algorithm, things that help divide the population.
But you see, the only thing that's being posted there is videos. The only thing that's being pushed on there is if you're inclined to look at political videos, you're going to get political videos. I don't get anything unusual pushed to me that I wasn't already looking for on TikTok. As a person who's been using TikTok for 4 years, I can tell you right now, Kevin, that this concern that they're going to magically start pushing things that I don't want to see has not yet happened. Whereas it happens all the time on Instagram and on X. I am constantly seeing conservative claptrap bullshit and Russian propaganda all over X and Meta on a regular basis, but I never see it on TikTok. So that begs the question: who's the greater national security risk? our own fucking backyard, which is apparently has the security of Swiss cheese and a completely opaque proprietary algorithm that they don't have to share with anybody, and a double middle finger to the federal government, or TikTok, who's been pretty transparent about almost everything, coming forward, complying with all kinds of data requirements and setting up billions of dollars worth of cybersecurity to try to prevent the very thing that you're claiming is going to happen. Rather hysterically, I might add.
Of course, the problem is that that's your experience. The problem is that there's probably a lot more people who are probably getting fed information that's may or may not be propaganda.
You said probably. You don't know that. That's not fucking true. The people all over TikTok are even saying it's bullshit because they've never had a different experience. I flip through thousands of videos every day, Kevin. It's total fucking horseshit. Nobody on TikTok is saying that they're getting bombarded with propaganda. Even the whole thing about TikTok trying to profess their innocence and rally the troops against them is something I maybe see once in the entire time I'm on there, and all I see, the rest of it is cat videos and VTubers. So I'm trying to understand when everybody says, well, probably this and that's Chicken Little hysteria. Whereas Meta and X are literally pushing propaganda and external state lies on a regular basis. They're actively doing it, and I see it every single day.
See, the thing is that when it comes to propaganda, some of it might in fact be echoing your views and beliefs that you may think of. So
everybody does that. It's not special to TikTok. Yes. It's not special to TikTok.
I am not
as well. So the question is,
I'm not disagreeing with you on that point. I'm not disagreeing with you that TikTok is somehow different from the others. It's a industry-wide problem. The problem is that there's a little bit more problematic here, because unlike with Meta and unlike with X and unlike with everything else, this is a company that is literally run by a foreign adversary, and the risks are definitely there, and it's just a different level than the others. It just is. It just.
Oh my god! That is such nonsensical hysteria, dude. No,
it's not.
We have trade agreements to get items from this same country that is an adversary. 80% of our goods, batteries that are made out of volatile chemicals, semiconductors, cell phones, all manner of things are coming from this country. But TikTok is the fucking problem. We literally get 80% of our technology from this country and have it manufactured and then shipped back to us.
Look, at this point,
TikTok is the fucking problem.
At this point, this is going to be something that we agree to disagree about, because there's just no way of going at this point. Because at this point, we're just going to keep arguing with each other and go around and around and around.
Well, what's next? What other companies? What other companies are going to have to divest all of their Chinese interests in order to do business with the United States?
That's not what this is about. That's not what this is about. But, at this point, it's just a case of this is going on too long, and we're just going to get nowhere here, and we should just agree to disagree on this.
Uh-huh.
I think the concern isn't so much that TikTok, and Mac is correct that there are plenty of Russian bots on Twitter,
right,
pushing their shit.
The concern
probably
is
Facebook too. But the point is, the thing isn't that they're going to show political stuff to people who aren't looking for political stuff. It's that the political stuff that they show will have its algorithm tweaked.
Yes.
The concern is that TikTok and ByteDance are a arm of the Chinese government. That's the U.S.
and they're very popular platforms.
Yeah, that's the difference between Meta and TikTok, if you will. Like, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, mind you. I'm just saying that's the view from the government.
Look, it's the fact that ByteDance and TikTok are incorporated in Beijing, and Meta and X and all the others are not. And the fact is that there are serious concerns here that ByteDance and TikTok have not done a good job of alleviating here. They haven't.
Well, putting all that aside,
yeah, on the we're going to take your information front.
Let Adam.
Putting that all aside, it doesn't really matter now because the clock is ticking.
Right.
Yeah.
All this is now a law that has been signed. So it is up to ByteDance to either go through the divestment process or file the requisite lawsuit to stop this.
And again, it's like I said earlier. Did the bill do enough to alleviate the First Amendment concerns in the eyes of the courts? If they did, then this conversation and this argument is moot, and we go forward. If not, then either ByteDance has to divest itself, or the Chinese government is going to cause TikTok to be shut down. That's basically what this is going to be now going forward.
True.
Because yes, I do think that it's going to be in the court system, and might probably pause the clock for maybe maybe a couple of months, and it's going to come down to what do the courts think about this, and did it do enough to alleviate the First Amendment concerns by the fact that there's divestments in a longer time frame here. And if it clears the court system, then it's up to China and it's up to ByteDance, and there's no other way around it.
Yeah. I just think it's interesting that the hypothetical of this is what I'm trying to get at, Kevin. The hypothetical of what TikTok could be doing versus the reality of what Meta and Twitter X are doing.
I mean, I don't think. Again, I'm not at all suggesting, and let me be very clear. I'm not suggesting that X and Meta are special and are clean and are somehow,
it's just
not
why
are
they not included? It's like why is there not also a concern of this being levied against them?
I mean,
I also heard something I also had something really interesting that one of the primary backers of the lobby to ban TikTok in the United States was that there's some highly conservative billionaire dude who was very heavily involved in a lot of the abortion bans and stuff like that, has like some PAC that sounds like American Families Lobby or something like that. So I mean, a Sheldon Adelson type, getting in there, fucking with things, because there's been a lot of news that was put out on TikTok that was banned on other platforms that was potentially embarrassing to these groups, and that once again, this is a follow the money thing.
That's not what this is about. It's not like that's not at all what this is about. And I mean, the fact of the matter is that if we want to talk about things being censored on TikTok, well, TikTok has censored stuff, and but that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, that's not what this is about. Like, the problem really is that a lot of this stuff, that's the reason why this push happened, is classified information, probably because of the sensitivity, and probably because it has to deal with internal communications with the Chinese government and whatnot, which if it got out would be probably problematic for a whole mess of reasons. So, but that's not what it is about at all. It's not. Like, I mean, if it was just about conservatives and everything else, then I don't think it would be the thing that would get a lot of Democrats and Republicans both bipartisanly to want this. So, but again, it's neither here nor there at this point.
Is there something more something? Let me phrase that differently. Is there something less interesting that we can talk about to wrap up?
Yes.
Or at least at less than tense.
Yes. In fact, I think I can inject the polar opposite to this
All right.
right here now. And that
Let's have
is
it.
the internet's favorite repository of fetishes, Totally Spies. Season 7 has a premiere date.
Oh,
Boy.
it will
In
be
France.
It will be premiering on a television station or something called Gulli.
A channel in France.
Yeah, in France on May 12th, which is coming up here.
I keep forgetting Totally
No
Spies
word
is a French
on-
production.
Yeah,
It was
English.
it was at least partially French.
Yeah.
Yeah, the weird thing is it's French Canadian originally. Quebec.
Yeah.
I think it-
Quebec. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it premiered in Canada initially. But, having a premiere in France, I guess, is not totally off base.
Mm-hmm. And this one's
It's
not
just-
a reboot, it's just another season, right?
Yeah,
It's another.
believe it or not.
It's another season. Yeah.
I mean, the
That's-
series was episodic enough that there's not really a huge call to reboot it unless they really, really, really want to retell the origins for some
That's
reason.
valid. It's been so long,
a decade.
Yep.
Matter of
Yeah,
fact, last season ended on September 2014. This is 2024, and it's probably
Probably actually later than I
less-
thought it was.
season 6 was more of a Canadian thing than an American thing because we barely saw it down here.
Because I don't even.
But
think...
the last season debuted in 2014 and ended in 2015, so it's been just about a decade.
Yeah. I don't think a whole lot has been divulged about season 7. Then again, it is Totally Spies, so
Again, it's usually 90% episodic.
yeah,
Right.
It's not one of those shows that went for big ongoing plots.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, it was more episodic in nature.
Yeah. Let's be honest here. I think the big question is which very esoteric fetish is going to be unleashed upon the world first.
Actually, I'll take it one step back from that. I'm curious if they'll be able to get away with as much shit as they did before, or if the people are going to be the people with their hands on the cut button are going to be looking at it a little more carefully, or if they know that's what people want and are going to be okay with it anyway.
Okay, so 2 things. First, I am noting that this is premiering in France first.
Right.
Which admittedly, France is going to be less uptight about it than the U.S. would be.
Yeah.
Which actually is what happened with the first season and the prior season. So this is not a new thing, for the record.
And it's also worth noting that since this isn't a reboot, the girls are all grown up. That was actually a thing since season 5, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, they were done with high school and actual adult spies now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more leeway, let's say.
Yeah.
Because they're not doing the weird fetish shit with literal children.
Yeah, they're old enough to consent now.
Yeah, pretty much.
You laugh.
Yeah, I know, but you know.
I mean, look, the show is now infamous for the fetish
Yeah.
fuel.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that people know it for these days.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just, like this was DeviantArt before DeviantArt existed
Mhm.
and got
Uh-huh.
flooded with AI shit all over the place.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's coming back soon, but only in French so far.
Mhm.
I'm sure that a dub will come. I know it's supposed to premiere on Cartoon Network here.
Cartoon Network, yeah. We'll see. We'll see. Considering the state of the network right now, we'll see. We'll see.
Anyway, so look forward to that.
Watching the space.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, we should probably wrap up for the season.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's it for that, folks. Again, special thanks to our guest Dan for helping us wrap up this season. And his game looks very interesting. Be sure to find that on Steam. And we'll see everybody May 29th.
I guess real quick, I'm going to send you guys over to Nick. He is doing a MA18 type content stream, so the youngins head out from here, but anybody else, you can go catch Nick. He is currently looking through Ree's Rapture.
Okay, so that'll be our
Video Rating Council.
Viewer discretion advised.
He does actually have a viewer
Rated
discretion advised thing on there because it's like talking about like cult stuff and like dismemberment, and some of it gets graphic.
rated by the Peggy.
Yeah. But I just wanted to put that out there before somebody.
And in the European Union.
So not the fun adult rated stuff necessarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's illegal in Canada.
It might actually be. I'm not sure on that.
Oh, Lord. All right. Well, that'll be our raid tonight. So, again, be sure to tune in next season when we're back. I do not believe that Alina, Atman, and I will be playing Paladins this week. So that's pretty much it for Retro Gaming Emporium. And I will have updates when I will be bringing my VTubing antics back on Thursday and Friday as the room reconstruction continues apace. But until next time, I'm Mac Paladin. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there, kids.